The special agents of the invading Japanese army were headed up by a General Kenji Doihara, and his right-hand man was Ding Motsun. It was thus a top priority for Ding to train some specialized students who could blend in with regular students, thereby monitor them. In this capacity they could spot any traces of anti-Japanese sentiments or activities, arrest and remove those involved. Jiang Shijun hoped much for his son's success. He knew well that only those who have served as special agents could be trusted or promoted in rank by the Japanese army. Jiang Shijun seized the opportunity of the sessions and strongly made the case for his son. Jiang Zemin attended the training. Interestingly, the special agents took political classes, alongside those courses providing training and technique subjects, effecting something of a brainwash program. All special agents were forbidden from having any mainstream religious beliefs. Nietzsche, the man who once claimed that God is dead, and who did much to advance the cause of atheism, thus made for a perfect read, and become part of the agent's indoctrination. Jiang Zemin was not only exempted from paying tuition, but further received a stipend. He led an extravagant life in college, often visiting whorehouses, with a band of shady friends, who sucked up to the rich and powerful. Jiang Zemin grew corrupted early, due to his capacity as a special agent, explaining, in part, why he visited, and easily knew how to find prostitutes on his first business trip to the United States, as the Minister of Electronics Industry. Such behavior was rather rare among minister-level officials at the time. After completing the session, a student would admitted directly to Central University. Jiang Zemin chose electrical engineering as his major. The subject, of course, had something to do with his father's hobby, but gained particular interest for Jiang Zemin, in that his father's exhibition of military successes, in the Pacific region of the Great Crusade in the East Asia, had captured his imagination, and held him rapt. With the surrender of Japan's forces on September 3, 1945, Jiang Zemin's father, Jiang Shijun, sensed that he himself was in imminent danger, and thus discarded his pseudonym, Jiang Guanqian, and switched his identity back to Jiang Shijun, the businessman, engineer, and a lover of literature. He returned to his hometown and lived in hiding for some time. On September 26, 1945, the nationalist KMT government started investigation of puppet students attending public colleges in the Japanese-occupied territories. Jiang Zemin was among the puppet students, suspected of treason, and marked for investigation. Before he was to be examined, however, Jiang Zemin had left school and run away. Gone with the days of special agents operating funds, he roamed about in a place named Mianhuaping, located in Yongxin, Jiangxi province. Jiang Zemin became homeless in hunger and cold, only later did a local peasant give him a place to stay. He'd remained there over half a year. After becoming the general secretary of the CCP, Jiang Zemin, on one occasion, stayed over in Yongxin for a day, and made a point of visiting Mianhuaping. None of his entourage knew why he was so familiar with such a small place, and why he even wanted to visit there. Before he eventually left the countryside, Jiang Zemin wrote down in an old medical book in the peasant's home, that should he ever rise to power someday, he'd certainly come back to visit, and signed his name. In 1997, a descendant of that peasant found the signed medical book. Much to his own astonishment, he proceeded to locate a relative, a powerful CCP member, Wei Jian, wishing to get advice on what to do with the book. Around the time of Jiang's flight from college, the underground Chinese Communist Party student committee in Shanghai exploited many students' dissatisfaction with the investigations, and roused the students to take to the streets, to march and protest, and in so doing evoked widespread public response. Jiang Zemin transferred to Shanghai Jiaotong University. He later claimed that he had participated in alleged 1943 student movement that was organized by the underground CCP. The truth is that in the Japanese-occupied territories, there was never any student movement led by the underground CCP, at any school. There were only secret underground counter-Japanese activities. After Jiang graduated from Shanghai Jiaotong University in 1947, he was hired, in 1948, as a technical engineer to work in the power supply section of a food factory, that was later a subsidiary of Beijing Shanghai Hangzhou Garrison Headquarters. Since the factory was a war industry enterprise, under strict KMT control, all staff and employees, and, in particular, those holding key positions, were investigated with utmost precision. Jiang Zemin did everything to keep his background as a traitor well concealed. At the time when Jiang Zemin was hired, the factory was subsidiary of Haming Foreign Firm, a U.S. enterprise. The factory later was purchased by the KMT's Combined Rear Services headquarters, and renamed First Grain Factory. Jiang Zemin has always avoided the fact that he worked for the Americans and the KMT during that time. In his resume, as supplied by the Central Committee of the CCP, this period of time was conveniently absent. Students from the Young Leaders training sessions had fled upon the surrender of Japanese troops. Those who fell into the CCP's hand became part-time teachers for the regime's public security department. Jiang Zemin, years later, managed by means of artifice learned as special agent, fooled all of his rivals in the Communist Party, new and veteran alike, climbed all the way up, and became the party's boss.